So, welcome to the Front Forum Focus podcast, where we dive into cutting edge tech, sustainability, and impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be chatting. My name is Austin. I'm a product manager and I lead AI for the Pixel Watch here at Google. I initially got into smartwatches very much by accident. And I got into consumer hardware, I would say, by accident as well. I was just joining the APM program at Google, or Associate Product Manager program at Google. And I was looking for that first team. And for that first team, they ask you about what you're looking for, how you would want to, engage there. And the things I wrote down were that I was looking for a high growth team where there was a strong history of other people from the APM program there, and there was a strong mindset around growth and personal development. That ended up landing me on the camera hardware team, which was something completely unlike anything I had done before. For context, I studied computer science and public policy for my undergrad, and then I got a master's degree in China, where I also studied policy. So hardware engineering at that level was so far outside of what I had ever considered doing before, but I quickly fell in love with it. I loved the technical rigor of the problem. I loved how meaningful and impactful consumer hardware can be. And I really loved the team. I loved the culture on Pixel. So much so that when it was time to rotate and find a new team, I wanted to stay within Pixel. That camera hardware team ended up evolving to become the broad AI team overall for the phone. And so when I joined the watch, I wanted to get involved with the AI efforts there. I wanted to learn more about what was happening and how I could get involved. Long story short, there was no one really leading and driving AI on the watch. And I saw this amazing opportunity to invest deeper, start a new team, and really create this focused work stream around delivering highly differentiated magical AI experiences. And that's what we do today. I've been leading the team for a little more than a year now, and it's been just a phenomenal opportunity.
It's clear that smartwatches are more than just gadgets. They are reshaping our daily life. And speaking of that, smartwatches are evolving fast. From fitness trackers to health monitors, even productivity. What are some of the most exciting developments in AI and IoT for the smartwatches right?
I think one of the most exciting areas is obviously health and fitness, where more and more smartwatches are evolving from fitness trackers, things that measure your step count or calories burnt, to almost medical scientific devices. A smartwatch today can track your blood oxygen level, your REM cycles. It can detect if you're having a heart attack or some sort of loss of pulse event. So the capabilities of a smartwatch, to the point where, at least in the US, we're increasingly needing to pursue FDA approval for additional features, really is moving more and more towards a device that is almost like a scientific instrument that's part of your daily life. And hopefully, as part of that, you get some enhanced insights about your health. At the same time, I also think AI is undoubtedly a major tide that we're riding right now in relation to smartwatches. So much of what limits the utility of a smartwatch is the form factor. The screen is super small. It's not easy to have a keyboard. Speech to text is a really poor way of inputting. And so that was a huge limitation. But with AI in particular, we can use context in a very abundant way, such that you don't need to type out an entire message. We can use context that we know about your relationship with someone, context about how you usually write something. And you can integrate that to help be more proactive and suggest things to the user that they would not normally otherwise want to do. And that actually unlocks a whole set of experiences that were otherwise limited by the smartwatch's ability to have precise input.
So there are mind-blowing developments in the AI field at the moment, which have made smartwatches smart. Integrating AI into wearables like the smartwatch comes with unique challenges such think of power consumption, processing limits, or even privacy concerns. Can you walk us through some of the biggest hurdles your team has faced and how you've tackled?
Yeah, absolutely. So the biggest limitation that all consumer devices today face in relation to AI is the power of the device. Taking something even larger, let's look at something like phone. or the phone today. Pixel phones have an on-device AI model. It's 4 billion parameters. And at 4 billion parameters, you're able to do a good portion of tasks somewhat well, but there's a huge margin between the 4 billion parameters that is available on a phone and the trillions of parameters that are available when you're using cloud-based compute. There's just a huge gap between the ability of those models to perform certain types of tasks. And it also comes with substantial impacts to battery and power and the system health of the device. A model roughly will take about as many bytes of memory as there are parameters. So a 4 billion parameter model will take about 4 gigabytes of RAM. And 4 gigabytes of RAM is a huge amount. Not too long ago, all phones shipped with just 4 gigabytes of RAM. And so you're eating a huge part of the device's ability to have things load quickly, have fluid animations, have a really smooth user experience. So much of that gets chewed up and eaten by the need to have these models loaded. And it's an incredibly costly experience to have them be loaded constantly from disk to RAM. I say all of that because the phone is an even more powerful version of the watch fundamentally. And so all those things that the phone runs into, the watch runs into even more so. In fact, I would say the watch struggles with it even more because some of the things that are costly to phone, such as power, battery life, are especially costly to watch. We know that most people at the end of the day want a smartwatch that lasts as long as possible. They want 2 days of daily active use. They want to be able to just not have to charge it. And AI directly comes at a cost to that. We're shaving literal minutes off of how long you can wear that watch every time you use these incredibly powerful tools and capabilities. And so with smartwatches in particular, we really have to balance what we can bring and deliver as an on device versus what parts of the experience we have to deliver off device, either leveraging phone or cloud or other sources of compute in order to better deliver on that experience. We also have to be very mindful of the connectivity element there as well. You had mentioned privacy, and one of the biggest concerns that we have to manage is that smartwatches have unique access to certain types of information about a user. We know a lot about the user's health. And if you were to apply certain insights, you could know even more contextually that a user might be getting sick or that might be getting pregnant. And that is very sensitive information that we don't want being shared with, for example, our ads business. And so being very user conscious and making sure that the ways in which your watch is able to leverage different sources of compute and still be privacy and security preserving is incredibly difficult, but incredibly important as well.
That's amazing. Just a question off the books. Which feature do you think is a game changer for the smartwatch?
I think one that we recently released in the US is loss of pulse detection. What loss of pulse does is that it has an on device model that can detect and understand when you might be going through a loss of pulse event, such as cardiac arrest. And in those cases, the device is able to contact 911 and let them know about your location. I think it's a feature that the moment you hear about it immediately makes you wonder, does my watch have that? That sounds really good. And I think that speaks to a really critical role that we see watches increasingly taking on, which is this health guardian. It's this line of last defense to help make sure that you're safe and that you're healthy. And loss of pulse, I think, is a great peace of mind feature that is just a slam dunk across the board.
Yeah, sounds. I know a few health tech who are doing wearables. They're kind of going to the scene of around diabetes. You can talk about like cardiac arrest, where they're also like trying to follow up like one's medication and also like tell people when certain can happen, maybe alerts to hospitals or things like. What do you like is your role as Google Pixel and also like other brilliant minds who are also trying build around health tech, Google Pixel, bring these products.
Yeah, so I want to emphasize that we're not trying to replace doctors or make cut out any sort of capacity functionality in the medical system. I don't think we want that sort of future. What we ultimately want to build is a consumer device that people love and they think helps and that they feel makes them live happier, healthier, more productive lives. Health and fitness is core to, yes, happier, healthier lives, but it's also really core to that happier part. Being healthier usually leads to you being happier in most of the aspects of your life. And I really do believe in that adage that nothing is more important than health. Your health is everything. And so anything we can do to build experiences that help users achieve their goals with health and fitness, that gives them better insight to their health and fitness and allows them to be more proactive, whether that's actions they take themselves or insights that they use that encourage them to seek out professional medical device or advice, is really amazing. And we want to continue building devices and experiences that give users more agency and control over their health, better visibility into how their body is performing, reacting, its general state of being, and being comprehensive in that view. Yes, on physical health, as we mentioned earlier, starting to venture into early diagnostic work such as sleep apnea detection, but also with mental health, daily stress detection, helping find the opportunities for you to catch a break or meditate or in general just reflect. Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because I think there is an ideal world and I think there's a reality. I think the ideal world is that we invest more deeply in connected device experiences, particularly in that IoT lens. And it creates this really beautiful multi-device orchestration symphony of, you have some sort of insight about how you slept, and that changes the temperature that we set the building at, and it changes the when we start the coffee maker and all these other things, which I think is really compelling as a vision. I personally think that, and this is my personal point of view, not reflection of Google, that IoT just isn't going to pan out the way we thought it would. And I say that largely because there's nothing that technically stops us from having that connected IoT future today, right? In theory, we have all the capabilities of home internet. There's no reason why we couldn't have this connectivity. I think the truth is that internet and home internet is super inconsistent. If you've ever had an IoT device, I think you've encountered an experience where for some reason it just disconnects or it's down or it's not able to maintain a connection. A lot of these companies build IoT devices, and it seems like in these environments where the internet is always perfect and there's never an outage or there's never anything down. And increasingly, I just keep on finding devices that are amazing pieces of technology, but are unable to get themselves out of situations where, the internet is out for 5 minutes and then it comes back online, but the device is just completely offline for some reason. Just home internet issues in general compound when you have IoT. Second one is that there's no company in the US, at least, or at least in the West, that is really able to build a complete IoT ecosystem across every device. At some point, you're going to need to fold in another device from another brand, another manufacturer, another OEM that is responsible for doing a different task, but you want those devices to speak to each other. And I think there's just not an incentive structure for companies to really make sure that their device connects and works well with every other device, because it's just too big of a task and the benefit feels super small to the user at the end of the day. Or at least feels super small to the company at the end of the day, when there's other areas that we could very clearly be investing in. And so I'm not a big believer in this IoT future. I think it's much more likely that you might have one device or a set of small devices that are deeply integrated with each other or have unique types of access or integration with all other devices. But I think this beautiful, every device is connected to each other, they know exactly how to coordinate and orchestrate future, just isn't likely because there's just too much inconsistency in the tech today and how home internet, Wi-Fi, cellular works.
Now let personal so can you tell us maybe a story on your career or something or an achievement that you're proud of at
To me, one of the things I am most proud of is actually my work outside of Google. I work very closely with a number of universities as an academic advisor, and I work very closely with them to help them better understand how to better adjust and acclimate their students to the AI landscape, product management. I think there is a strong desire in academia to feel more prepared and integrated for the current professional landscape, especially because so many students in tech today no longer have the kind of guaranteed next step of getting a software engineering job the way there was 5 years ago. When I was a student, everyone was who wanted to be a software engineer and could code was able to get that entry level software engineering job. It was almost a guarantee. And we were hearing all these statistics about how there's more demand for software engineering jobs than there are graduates. That has completely flipped. Software engineering is super competitive now. It is impossible to get an early career role. And the only interest that a lot of companies have for hiring are people who have demonstrable AI experience. And that's really hard for universities to understand. What is that AI experience? What's valuable? What's not valuable? What does a company actually want to look for? And I work very closely with those universities to help them understand with their curriculum what that would look like, how to adjust, and how to better prepare their students. What do I think is transient information that is of the time but not really relevant to any particular domain versus information that I think actually is important or skills that I think are actually very useful in moving forward with a field like AI. Most notably, I recently was back at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and I had my first opportunity to lecture in front of undergraduate and MBA students. We did multiple lectures. I got to speak with a huge range of faculty. It was overall a really phenomenal experience and visit. It's a huge milestone recently that I think very fondly of.
I think that brings the human side of innovation. If in the US, if also like universities are also like at that point to get interested to learn about what they need to. I think it's also up here also in Africa. I think many universities, are also like trying, to understand like the curriculum as they changing very fast. I think everyone is trying to adopt to that fast change, and universities are affected like directly with this fast moving. So that's really interesting. So what is your advice to students who are in university and also like right now are on the AI wave?
Yeah, my top advice is to start specializing or start developing really concrete domain knowledge. The old style of getting into tech where if you just had a general skill set of being able to code and a company will hire you and train you up, I think is really starting to die. There just isn't the same demand for software engineering talent the way there used to be. And what that means from my point of view is that generalists or just being able to, or and really when I think of a generalist, I think of someone who doesn't have particular domain expertise in anything. Generalists are not really sought after anymore. People really want to engage and hire folks that have specific niches. AI is a huge field right now. And of course, that's a very valuable niche, but it's not the only one, right? There's still people who need to do hardware. There's still people that need to do cloud and reliability. There's still people who need to specialize in user design and a whole range of experiences. So I think it's important to have something that you're confident that you're a top percentile in early on. More broadly, I think if you are interested in AI, it really behooves you to get involved sooner rather than later. It has never been easier to be on top of an emerging industry because AI is such a new field, at least on the generative side in that domain. I read a ton of research papers. I look through recent academia. I share papers and talk about them with other folks. And that is partially achievable because although there's a huge volume of work being released, there's only so many ways in which the academic landscape can evolve because there's only been so many generation of papers. What I think that means is if you're interested in AI, you should start reading and learning about AI immediately because it's never been easier and it's only going to become harder and harder as time goes on.
Such valuable advice. Thank you, Austin, for sharing your expertise and passion. This has been an amazing conversation, shedding light on how AI, IoT, and smartwatches are shaping our. So head over to Front Forum Focus and learn more about our platform and join our community. Don't forget to subscribe and review our mobile. Wherever you listen, your support means the world. Until next time, keep innovating and driving your